There is a way to alchemize any problem in your life, and it's very simple. It's called shadow work. Now, shadow work is a phrase that's often thrown around a lot in the spiritual community or in personal development. But what exactly is it, and how does it relate to ancient wisdom and to the cutting edge of emergent consciousness, as well as the practical metaphysics of how we can apply this? So the shadow is essentially an amalgamation of our disowned parts. And these are the parts of ourselves that are pushed down from the conscious mind and into the unconscious. So there are also a lot of things that we aren't aware of about ourselves. Often when we're looking to overcome certain patterns that are reoccurring in our life, we aren't fully aware of the cause. And we might look around and point our finger at something that's going on in our reality and say, oh, well, that's what's causing it. But shadow work isn't about that. Shadow work is about turning within ourselves and finding the source of where that disowned part that is, say, causing us to repress our expression, or even saying that the external manifestation of scarcity in our life is actually a reflection of a shadow or a disowned part of ourself that is manifesting that problem in our life. And this is also a journey of healing, because Carl Jung said enlightenment is not about imagining figures of light. It is about making the unconscious conscious. And he was actually a big part of the phrase shadow work even being made a thing today in the West. Because though he did a lot of work in psychology, at his core, he was a practicing Gnostic. And Gnosticism is an ancient vein of Western magic and alchemy that particularly works with the unification of the masculine and the feminine polarities within our being. It is a direct path to God, to Creator, to Source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, the all that is, that allows us to come into gnosis, which means knowing, which means inner knowing. And this is the equivalent to what you could call Christ consciousness. And as we embark on that path of integrating our shadow, we're on a journey of healing. Because integrating the shadow is actually the same process of integrating our light. Because until we are able to bring into our awareness these parts of us they will continue to rule our lives in the background. And what do I mean by disowned? Disowned simply means any part, any facet of our fractal of self, of any part of our consciousness that has been splintered and that has been disowned. And when I say disowned, what I mean is it is not integrated. And integrated means it is within the bailiwick of the wholeness of our sense of self. So what a lot of people happens when you hear this called spiritual bypassing is that as people start to go through their awakening, they start to become very love and light. And this is great and all, because you want to start seeking to raise your vibration and live in a higher vibration. But what actually blocks a lot of people from manifesting their dream life is that they're rejecting their shadow. They're rejecting the darkness of the world because they're only identifying with the light. But you see, there's an ancient alchemical symbol that goes like this, and it means as above, so below. So when you only reach for the light, you reject the shadow, you push that down further into the darkness, into the unconscious, and so it actually just rules your life in the background. So this is why just doing affirmations, just visualizing doesn't work for a lot of people, because they actually need to go into this healing process. They need to not just sit and meditate and try to find the highest feeling that they could possibly find, but to sit there and actually feel the uncomfortable emotions that are coming up. This is also known as somatic healing, which is a form of processing. And I first learned about this in an ancient Buddhist practice called Vipassana, which is said to have actually been taught by Siddhartha Gautama, which we popularly known as the historical character that many call Buddha, or that incarnation of Buddha that is popular, that everybody thinks about from the East. And so actually Siddhartha Gautama would teach Vipassana, which to masses of people, say 2,000 people at a time, because it was the most simple path to awareness, to it, or you could say enlightenment for people, because it wasn't a mental activity. It was a visceral activity that brought their awareness into scanning their body and being aware of the sensations in their body while not being attached to them and not being averse to them. And what this did was trained a non-dual awareness of sensations, which eventually causes one to realize that everything in our consciousness is actually made of the 5 elements, combining themselves into various forms that we experience as reality or sensations, or our bodies, or our everything around us, right, is made of the basic elements of nature, which are at their core vibrating packets of energy. So I went to a 10-day Vipassana retreat, which is completely silent, and I had a really profound experience. The last day I was in intense pain was coming up because I was sitting in a lotus position, and what happened was I was aware of it, and I was aware of the pain, but I wasn't pushing it away, and I wasn't holding on to it. In that moment, it dissolved, and I experienced being pure awareness, in which all the energy in my body started flowing through me in a very blissful state. And I said, oh, I really like that. And as soon as I tried to grab that feeling, it was gone. And then that made me start to realize that these energy patterns are just the same as you push something away, the same as you attach to something. It has a way of evading what you want. And also one thing that I learned was that these patterns of energy inside of our body are also connected to karmas or karmic patterns within our life. And so people who have experienced, say, traumas in their past, they get stored into their body, and their body is actually their mind, it's their unconscious. And so those traumas rule them from the background, because the body is also, you could say, the subconscious, because the body and the mind are really one thing, right? One organism. And when you're not just looking at the mind as the brain, which is more of an antenna, and you're looking at it more as a holistic system, you start to realize that as you're able to practice this somatic awareness. And what does somatic mean? Somatic means aware of your vibrations, aware of the sensations in your body, right? There's somatic healing modalities and meditations, and like the one that I just mentioned, in a Western sense, we would call it somatic. And there's other forms of somatic meditation, which include feeling positive emotions. But shadow work particularly works with surfacing negative emotions or repressed emotions so that we can feel them to heal them. Because this isn't about creating an endless cycle of healing, but rather, instead of rejecting what is uncomfortable, we're allowing it to be a part of our self and our experience. Instead of avoiding discomfort, we're embracing it. And so we're allowing it, we're embracing it. So, and what is discomfort associated with? Resistance. And so what I'm saying is that when you no longer resist, it no longer persists in your experience. But if you resist, your resistance, what happens is repression. When you no longer resist the uncomfortable feelings, the shadows in the dark, you could say the demons. What does demon mean? D means negative, moon means subconscious, emotions, right? When you no longer resist them, when you no longer fight your demons, but instead you are the pure awareness, you're not identifying as them, but you're not rejecting them. What that allows you to do is to love them. And when you love them, love is an alchemical emotion, because what love does is love, self-love is very alchemizing, because it's a non-resistant vibration. and it integrates everything. And when you integrate things into the awareness, you could say your awareness is the light of consciousness. Like this light is shining on me now. If I block this light, right? But if there's nothing blocking the light, there's no shadow. So the shadow is just what is an out effect of my hand blocking the light. But when there's nothing blocking the light, there's only light. So when you light a match in a room, that single match has the power to light the room. When you're not afraid of your demons, they will show you a gift. When you are not afraid of your fear, you're able to feel it. When you can't feel it, it gets repressed and then it rules you. And the very thing that you're trying to avoid will always sneak its head back up on you, and you'll end up living in anxiety or getting depressed. But when you're able to actually embrace your shadow, when you're able to love the parts of yourself that you don't love, there's the trick of it. Because we think we're all love and light, and yet if you were love and light, why wouldn't you love your shadow? It's part of your whole being. It's part of the yin and the yang of our experience. What I found is that it actually makes you more empowered. It actually liberates that energy, because when you're able to confront your shadow, when you're able to love the parts of you that are unloved, that's what those disowned parts are. They're just parts of you that are unloved. You'll realize another thing, that the things that are blocking you from seeing the light were from earlier traumas. And then for some people, you could even say they're from past lives. And that people who say were injured in a certain way or experienced a certain difficulty in that life will experience that resurfacing in the same part of their body or having the same similar kind of problem in this life. But once you learn whatever that lesson is that's connected to that pattern in your life, and you're able to integrate the shadow, and you're able to come into a state of love, of unconditional love towards it, it will alchemize in your experience. And what happens when you do that is it activates a kundalini current. It activates an electric current inside of your body that liberates the energy of trauma that is stored in your lower 3 chakras, which are all associated with survival, sex, food, and power, basically. And those are the base drives of humanity. And when you're able to integrate, not reject, integrate these parts of yourself, those will become integrated, and you'll able to open your heart and actually use your heart to transmute those energies. And what happens is then you'll be able to go into the higher chakras in a more balanced way. Because a lot of empaths dissociate from the lower 3 chakras, and so they're walking around in their heads and in their higher centers, taking on everybody else's energy. But shadow work is also just as simple as, are you disassociated? Are you outside of your body because it's uncomfortable? Are you numbing out? Are you in these addictions? Are you watching things that are distracting you? And it's distracting you from facing it, but it's also distracting you from your purpose. So the same things that block the light, that are uncomfortable, that you don't want to face, are the same things that will cause you to do self-destructive habits that will keep you from fulfilling your purpose. But there's a gift in this. So when you're able to face these things, what happens is that they're no longer able to debilitate you. It's like when the hero stands up to the bully, but you're doing it internally. And what will actually happen too is that you'll start to realize that you're living in a hologram of yourself, so as within, so without. So as you clear these things within yourself, you're going to heal these patterns in your relationships around yourself too. Because for every empath, there's a narcissist. Every narcissist, there's an empath. They're a lock and key mechanism. So the narcissist is teaching you boundaries, whereas the empath is teaching compassion, but you can't let this one suck you dry. So you have to be in your own frame. And once you learn that, you realize that empathy is a gift, not an obligation. And you will start to love yourself enough to no longer allow that in your experience. And this is not victim blaming. This is not just saying, oh, well, you attracted that. No, it's not. It's deeper than that. It's that you're a vibrational match to those out picturings of the shadow in your reality. So you have to have compassion for yourself to heal whatever you share with those manifestations in your experience. When you're able to go within and be the alchemist of your own experience, well, think about what an alchemist does. They turn lead to gold. And turning the lead into the gold is bringing the shadow into the light. And as you do this, you will liberate energy that has been trapped within you. And you will experience this rush of life force, vitality, and inspiration flowing through you. And then you won't have to be fake positive, because positivity will naturally be appropriate to your vibration. You won't have to force yourself out of a low vibration because you've alchemized the vibration into a higher vibration. And the fastest way to do this is through having an intention to manifest something in your life, rather than just having an intention to heal. Because if you are intending to do something with your life and you know that you need to heal in order to do that, you will be focused on where you're going rather than where you're at. And you want to focus on where you are, obviously, to be able to heal, but you're not a broken thing to be fixed. So if you set your intention for what you want to create consciously in your life, it will align your healing process with a goal, with a vision, and with a higher purpose. And then the universe will start to send you things to support that.